try and do me introduction to part 16 whilst I'm walking to the shop on a somewhat sunny, somewhat rainy mid-May day. So this is part 16, I think. I've lost count. It's been probably 5 months since the last video. I've not done much work on the car. Well, I've done some, as you'll see, because there's bits and bobs and I've not done as much as I want, which will be explained. But like I say, I can only get to the car once a week if I'm lucky, and I'm only one man. I'm not a particularly skilled man at that. I'm not a fabricator, I'm not a master mechanic. I'm just, bird nearly crapped on me. I'm just a man with a vision and yeah, a desire to get stuff done. So see what you think. Well, this is the first bit of actual welding action I've done in 2026. It's the first time I've been near the car. So it's up on the ramp and I've finished welding up these bits here, but I'm going to start putting my strengthening bits in. So chopped a piece here, notched it, sits over the chassis. We've got another one that's going to go here. It's going to sit like that, and then I'll do an identical one for this side, which I haven't cut yet, but that will do exactly the same thing. It'll sit there, and then that whole area is then nice and strong, and I can hack this off the back there, do the same on the other side, and I'm going to have to reattach the subframe onto here so I know where it sits in terms of this and clearance wise, so I know where to chop this and triangulate it down to here, because obviously the body sits in this bit here up to a point, so I've got to make sure not to hit the body. I've also, which I've been forgetting about for a while, I've got to cut these off and move them across. They're the top shock mounts. So obviously the Scimitar ones are normally here, the shock, but the shock on the BMW is sort of further over this way, so I think by moving that to about there, obviously I'll measure it, but I'm hoping I can use the Scimitar coil over rather than having to make spring mounts and use the BMW one. So I'm going to get these two chucked on, make the one for the back, and then make the ones for the other side, and then that's that back bit largely done, and I can finish off the seam weld there, and this can be cut where it needs to be. I'm not cutting these off yet, I'm leaving them on until I have done all of this stuff at the front here, and I've plated that in, and I've plated these up so all the strength is there, and these can come off last. They don't need, they can be on as long as you need to be. But right, let's get these things tacked on and see what it'll look like afterwards. Happy days. The update is I've done both sides of the chassis now. I've got it upside down because it was easier to weld these in. You can see I've been over grinding off the welds, just making everything nice, including under there. The idea being I'll just temporarily paint over it with some hammerite or something. So now I'm happy that all this is in. I can just finish off these bits while the chassis is upside down, and then I can move on to the front pieces. I've just done another, filled a little hole in that was there. So now that's done, I can move on to working out how to triangulate this to there and where I need to do it. I'm also going to strengthen this up, so with something like this piece, but not that piece, as you can see, it'll be more like, you know, obviously solid on the outside, not a hole there, but just a bit of extra bracing across here, just because it's all welding practice and I need a lot of welding practice. But I've had a blast on it now, so that bit of the back end is done. I can cut off here now. I'm going to cut these here and I'm going to plate all the way up here. So this is sealed in. Obviously down at some point work out where, probably cut it off somewhere about here. It doesn't need to be all this length here, but all this is staying on for the time being. And I'm going to reattach the subframe back on so that everything is still perfectly where it is before I work out where this needs to triangulate from, because the subframe obviously sits in this section here, so part of the subframe is going to be potentially in the way of whatever I put in to triangulate it, if you get what I mean. I know what I mean. I find it hard to articulate it, but I'm happier that that back end bit is done. My welding's getting better. I'm having a bit of a fiddle with the big welder and the settings and messing around with current and what have you and getting everything. I think I've got the current set perfectly now. I'm not blowing holes and stuff. So it's getting there. But yeah, on with the front bits. And then we can start unstitching these bits off here. All this can go. Get all the plates made for there. I'm probably repeating myself, I've probably said all this already, but it's more of a reminder for myself. Get all the plates done, box all these areas in. I might well make something that goes, now I've got this upside down, if I make a plate or a box that goes there and just ties it in some more, ties it in directly to that rail, that's extra strength, which is only a good thing. I mean, it's extra weight, it is going to weigh more, but I don't know how much more. But the proof will come when I cut all these bits off and we'll get it back on the hanging scales again. I think I've probably added about, looking at what I've got here, between all that, about 25 kilos of steel and weld, but we'll see what the outcome is. So I'll crack on, finish all this stitch welding up down the bottom here. Oh yeah, plate them in, get me plates made for that whilst I've got it upside down as well. Yeah, I really do need to make a new list actually. I might do that, I might clear the board off, I'll make a list of what I need to do and then tick it off. But onwards. There we go. The middle is out and I've cleaned it all up, ready to take these little plates here. So I've made one for this side, which is going to sit there and weld on there, and I've made one for this side which is going to go on, and then I'm going to trim the ears off afterwards. But I've finished, well, I've continued welding along there. I'm going to trim these little lips off because they're not needed. So I'll do the same on this side as well. And tidy this up again, and all this back end is then done. And when the plates are on, everything for the rear mounts, bar cutting them off there and putting the crush tubes in, are done. I can move on to strengthening across here and cutting out the pieces to do that. I'm thinking I'm going to cut some pieces of box section, such as these here. So a better one. I cut that along its length to the right depth because they slot in, put into that gap pretty perfect. To be honest, I've had a bit of a try. I need to cut that little ridge off, but these will slot in there once they're cut to the right size, and obviously this surface will be parallel with this. And then I'm going to drill through, plug weld it, seam weld it up the outside, and all that strength goes back in. is the plan. So using the amazing power of editing, I'm going to do this. We're going to go boom, there you go, both plates welded in. Still require a bit of tidying up. There's still some grinding back to do, but I think I'll probably double do these. I turn the chassis back the other way up because they're quite difficult to get to, but I'm quite happy with that. So that's aside from cutting these little ribbons off here, which I haven't got time to do today, I'll do them another day. That's the back mounting part done, so I can concentrate on the next bits moving forward. Just do section at a time, do the middle section, then the front section, and then the other front section. There's two front sections, and then the that subframe mounting is complete. I should be able to put the subframe on and see how everything looks. But I'm making good progress, and my welding's getting better as I go along. So I'm not the best welder in the world, as you could probably see from the state of these welds on here. So I'm having to grind everything back. But each time I do it is practice, and each time I do it I get better. So by the time I get to the front and do the engine mounts, I'm expecting it to be about 43.6% better than it has been at the back here. But just concentrating on one thing at a time. So next job, finish cleaning them up and then do those other plates, and like I keep saying, relocate, or not relocate, cut them off for the time being, because I can't work out where they're going until I put the subframe on and get the plane that the coilovers sit in, if they actually work. Don't know, I'm hoping so. Otherwise I've got to go custom. But it's a job for another day. So I'll carry on, and yeah, I'll get better. Right, so I've mounted the subframe into place for reasons that I will now explain. So it's on. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to tack these on so they then become captive, and then I can put the subframe on and off as I need to. And also I need the subframe on so I can work out where any bracing goes from this, because anything beyond here and in this plane here is impinging on the interior space. So this is going to have to go across here, have to be cut off there, and none of this can exist. So I've got to try and find a way of bracing this from there to there, or down here. Now I know on the 1 series and 3 series and 2 series they have a dog bone mount on this front subframe mount that bolts to the chassis. So I'm thinking I might do something similar. I'll put a longer bolt in this instead of the 160 that I've got now, and I will make something possibly that I can unbolt, or I can unbolt it and slide this out, but I will triangulate across to here so that this is then held to here. So this, obviously the body sits on that there, so anything below here is free space. The wheel is in this space, and none of this is all dead space really. This is where the old parallel arms were for the axle. So if I could put something across from here to there, leave enough space to get a nut or bolt in there. I think this bolts through from that side, and you put the nut on there for removing the lower arm, and then up here I might extend this body mount out, or strengthen it up because it is only quite thin, extend it out with a box section, and then come down to here, you know, angle down to there. Because like I say, anything this side of here is wheel arch, or there's a void anyway. Obviously this part was all, yeah, I think the wheel arch comes up here around that, but it's quite long internally. Even though the wheel only sits like there to there, there's a big old gap here, because that's pretty much where the wheel arch starts. I also have noticed as well that we are actually just touching here. So I'm going to make a mark on this. I'm just going to trim this down ever so slightly, because that'll vibrate like hell, that will. But I'm happy that it's all sat on and it's square, because we've got the same touch situation this side as well. So it's not like it's on the piss, it's square and it's straight. So if I can get these now tacked in, welded in, I'm happy enough that all this is strong enough. I can cut these off, they're not in my way. Get these chopped off. I've ordered my steel for my crush tubes to go in there. I've ordered some tube, so when that arrives I can cut them down to size, knock them in, weld them in as well, and that bit's over and done with. I'm also going to not remove this, but I'm going to move this, because I think that is bracing for the shock top mounts. Obviously these are going to be moving across to here or wherever they are in line with the shocks. If I move them across, I can cut that off and move that across to be in line with it, because I'm not really losing anything. You know, I think I'm going to have to, like I said before, I'm going to have to mess around with the fuel tank anyway. But if I cut this off, I can do this plate here a lot easier than trying to make a plate with a bloody ring cut out of it, and then I can just make this slightly shorter, put it back in, and everything is good. I'm also quite tempted to brace this bit up as well, because that's just like a piece of folded sheet over there. I'm just to box that out as well, just for the sake of it, just because I can. And maybe even now looking at it, I can do maybe something across the front here where these diff mounts are. Where they are going to be, they are close to the body then. I might have to make a little hump in the back seats there just for the bolts. Maybe some access panels, that's a good idea. That'll make it a lot easier. But yeah, let's get tacking, and then I can possibly take the subframe back off and start looking at how I'm going to do my bracing here. So I should be able to film the welding as well, because I've got my other camera. If I can find something to stand it on, because I've still lost my tripod. But let's get them tacked in, and then I don't have to worry about them ever again. Nice little situation update. Still haven't been shopping for welding rods, but I've been doing a bit of cutting in between. So that tube is now there, and the brackets for the shocks, which were somewhere there, there I believe, and then I'll cut off, and they can go probably there. I think they're going to be needed, but I won't know until I put the suspension bits back on. The other thing I've done is there's two of these with a body mount here and there that I've cut off, because I'm going to have to brace this up to here, this part of the bench. So let me just grab some metal. Okay, so the idea being that this is going to come out from there, like so, and there will be another piece of this going up to meet it, and then possibly a piece going from there to there, and down there to there, so that that is absolutely solid. And I could also put any captives in for the body, because I've got very little space here to curve back, because I already think that this part of the subframe here, I already think that's going to interfere with the wheel arch tub, so that will have to be ground out. I already know I'm definitely going to have to make some, you know, some very, very small, even if they're just access holes in the body, maybe a little hump or a little cap over them to do that. So yeah, I figured if I cut these off, I can just make something up here. We can make that nice and strong there. Again, I'm going to brace in there as well. I've made some little marks on there with some chalk, so I'm just going to whip them out, put a little semicircle of a tube in there, keep the strength, then we can box all that in. I've cut this rotten piece out in anticipation, so I'm going to put some nice 3 or 4 mil plate in there, nice and strong for the seat belts. I'll do the same on the other side, I'll cut that off as well. So once I've got my rods and everything, we can plate all this up. This will all be plated across on here, and I've got my L section to go in there. I've cleaned this up as best I can in there as well. And again, I'll get this so it's flatter. We'll put the L plate in, weld all that into that's all nice and strong, and whenever I've got the bracing here, we'll triangulate across to that as well, make sure that's nice and strong. That tube can go back in once they're on, and as soon as I have this section in here, I can cut these out, so these are independent of one another, and then I can across there, whip that across there, and then all these extra bits aren't needed. This bit will go, and then it will start to look something like. Once all that's kind of in position, I can lower the body on and see where I need to trim in the body. But I'm going to crack on with welding these little bits up now, make these bits, weld them up. I'll still need to make the plates for there as well, still haven't done that. But that'll be, I've got the plate for it, I just haven't got around to cutting. I got a bit busy doing this. Right, welding. Extra bits. I said I'd point out some extra bits, so here they are. Seats for sitting on. They're in reasonably good nick. There's a couple of little, as you can see, this is the driver's side one, or passenger, whichever car it came out of. Needs a bolster, that's easy enough to fix. Bought a new release handle for here, but they're tilt and slide and all that guff. They've got reasonably low profile runners on already that I believe were from a Land Rover. Not that it matters, but they're hopefully going to work. They're a bit of a tight squeeze, but they should be all right. We also have MX5 Mark 1 door handles. I think I've got the locks as well. I've also got the rear boot release, so these are nice and slim, flush fit. So there's going to be some chop and cut out of there and making stuff work with all the levers behind, but they should look a lot better than the things that are there, and I can sell the things that are there. And then also when it comes to stopping, because we have rear brakes, you don't have front brakes, we have WRX Pro 4-pot calipers off Subaru Impreza. They do fit under 16-inch wheels because they were fitted on a car with 16-inch wheels. So there are plenty of other little bits there going on in the background. There are probably some other bits. I've bought that many different things I've probably forgotten. I've done some work on the steering wheel, but it's not finished yet. It's been cleaned up and modified. I really do need to go through this shed. It's a bit of a mess. I've got tyres for me 3 series and stuff that I'm going to use for coating the wiring in when it's done, and the other seats under there, so I'll get there eventually. But you know, there's more important things to be getting on with, like all this lot here. So I have to bear with myself, and you have to bear with me. So I haven't got as far as I wanted to at the end of this video, because a lot of things have stood in my way up to now. Ideally I wanted the rear part of the chassis completely done, all the suspension, all the subframe fully mounted, and you know, ready to move on to somewhere else. But amongst other things, I had to get my daughter's car through an MOT, so there was lots of faffing around with that and taking off suspension and redoing brake lines and tyres and stuff like that. I've had to repaint and repair the front bumper on my wife's old car. We've had the clutch go on her new car, and also I now have my 3 Series in for a full suspension refurbishment. So the ramp and the workshop are not free at the moment, so I'm going to endeavour to do as much as possible around it, or I'll jump on when I've got this done, but I don't know when that's going to be, so hopefully sometime by the end of the summer. It's now the middle of May. I've not been on the Scimitar since the start of March, so it is what it is. Can't help it. Life just sometimes gets in the way, so we'll see where the land lies in a couple of months when I've hopefully finished this, and crack on while the sun shines. So I'll see you soon.